Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Chasing Collectibles. I'm Tyler,
I'm Tim.
and today we've got a special episode. We're very excited. Second appearance, which is cool. Ron Rossmann is here with us. Be Your Own Hero Productions, and very cool to see that next month your film, Your It, is coming out. That's very exciting. So we're happy to have you on again
Thanks for having me again. It's an absolute pleasure to be back.
at the fifth time you get your jacket. So
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's my my
five
chasing
timers.
collectibles SNL five timer. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Um, so I feel like whenever I listen to a podcast and someone's promoting a book or a movie, sometimes they dance around questions, and what either directors or authors really just want to be asked is first, like, what is your movie about? So just let's start off is what's the movie about? I know it is horror, but
Yes.
what's going on?
So it's a the tagline is a seemingly supernatural serial killer stalks the crew of a retro film
Hmm.
in a maniacal game of hide and seek. So the more elaborate version is that there's a couple of competing storylines. One is about a independent filmmaker who's got his last chance at making a horror film. So he ends up going to this haunt to film this project. And unfortunately, while he's there, there's a serial killer also there at the same time. And there's a story as how he got there. While that's happening, a detective and a former FBI agent have realized that this killer is back on the loose, and they're trying to find out where he is, who he is, what's going on. So you've got those two storylines moving, and then of course the chaos ensues from there. And it was inspired, actually. It's hilarious, Tyler and Tim. So I was getting ready to do my next project, figuring out which was going to be next. And I was talking to the executive producer, Greg Bo Watson. You guys probably know Greg Bo, works for Marvel,
Mhm.
Zenoscope, Fox TV. We were talking about what was next, and we started talking about a show on Netflix called The Movies That Made Us. I don't know if you guys seen that show.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it was a
Yeah,
Halloween
it's a good
episode.
show.
It was a Halloween episode, and I'm a huge fan of John Carpenter, one of my favorite directors. And I thought to myself, Greg Bo, I'm not a big slasher fan, but why don't they get back to the roots of Halloween? Halloween was so simple, it was low budget, but it had such an impact on the zeitgeist. It literally was the film that launched A Thousand Machetes, and I really wanted to get back to that formula. And so that's what started the idea of kind of creating, going back to that style of slasher, but kind of bringing it up to current standard. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. I mean, I've seen some of the sequels, and it does get, sometimes they kind of move away
Woof,
from form. You're like,
woof, yeah. So I think the first
I,
two for me close the loop, the bookends. They're really
Mhm.
good. The first one is much more psychological, much more of a horror film. The second one is just straight slasher, scary. But after that, it kind of goes off the rails from there.
Right.
yeah, I do enjoy a good slasher film, but I feel like the 80s and 90s was just full of them. I don't know if the movie Scream might have been like the last one that I can really think of, because I mean, remember, like, we had Scream, and we had I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we had films like
Urban
those.
Legend. Yeah, they all came
Hmm.
out. That was from 78 to 89 was the height, the peak of the slasher horror. We had Texas Chainsaw, you had Halloween, you had Jason, Friday the 13th, you had Chucky, you had Nightmare on Elm Street, and then you had a bunch of others. Reanimator came out at that point. You had a lot of the zombie movies starting to get some traction or re-getting traction. And then it kind of toward 89 started to dip because the sequels got bad. They were just cash
Mhm.
grabs and people had lost interest. And then 1990 brought back what I call the YA slasher, which was, like you said, Scream, Urban Legend. Um, what was the other one? Like you said, I Know What You Did Last Summer. And then it kind of didn't do so great. I mean, some of them were really good, but then I think what picked back up, they're not really slasher, but I think The Ring and those kind of started bringing back horror as a
Hmm.
genre in a strong way. They moved away from slasher. I don't think there's been a really, except for Terrifier, which kind of reignited the slasher mythos. There hasn't been a really iconic slasher character since I think probably 89,
Yeah.
Right.
And that one
90.
definitely
Yeah.
took it very to an extreme of the Terrifier for sure.
Yeah. 100%. For independent filmmakers like me, Terrifier 3 especially is a very proud moment. Even though I'm not a fan of gore porn, which is basically what Terrifier is, although I give much respect to the director, the actor, they're phenomenal. But $28 million budget, I think, and it did over $100 million. No,
Yeah.
$2 million. $2 million budget. I'm thinking smile. $2 million budget, and it made over 100 million. Shows Hollywood that you can make good films at an economical price and still have quality and still have story. So it's a huge victory for independent filmmakers what Terrifier 3 did for the genre.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and just and this could be a whole episode talking about like budgets in Hollywood because you see so many movies out there that like the budgets are just absurd,
Oh
and
yeah.
then they don't even some of them just do horrible, and you're like, like you're,
Yeah.
what are you doing? And it's
Terrifier was 2 million. Joker 2 was over 100 some million, and Terrifier made more money than Joker 2, which
yeah,
was a full studio
Mm.
backed film. So it shows you it's Hollywood is in a weird place right now, as far
yeah,
as what's happening. So
yeah. Hopefully they figure
So
themselves out.
I mean, we're talking about horrors and genres, and the whole thing is really big. You know, I feel, and it sounds like you feel the same way. Certain points are much. There was more pinnacle points at certain times than others. But how do you feel like your movie, is stands out
right,
to everything else that we're talking
that's a great question, Tim, because I've asked myself that question because there's nothing new under the sun. I mean, everything's been done, and it's just basically people either rebooting, which I can't stand, or they're doing their best to kind of put their own spin on things. It's really hard to find really original ideas. Even the Lovecraftian stuff kind of is now being, regurgitated. So I think for us, when I was trying to describe the film for someone, I said it's like if Stephen King wrote a slasher film. So what sets our story apart is their story without getting too cumbersome, and there's a lot of character development because I wanted to create a story where you really get upset when the people meet their end, that there's a connection with those characters because most of the time it's just fodder. The victims are fodder. There are
Right.
some movies that stand out that are different. Even Terrifier is trying to do something different with their kind of protagonist to antagonist, but most of they're just teens having sex or someone doing something stupid or they're at a. I mean, I think the last one that really did a good job was Cabin in the Woods, but most of those the stories in this genre, the slasher style genre, they're just kind of one dimensional, and we wanted to really try to flesh out the characters. And I think we did that. The performances are phenomenal. In independent film, you don't have the budget to do the effects you want, or the stunts you want. You're really kind of got to do a lot with a very limited budget. So what really sells for me, the independent film, is the characters, the story, and the dialogue, and not going into acres of exposition or acres of description. Because you'll see some horror films, the slow burns, the A24s, a lot of story, and then you get that one monster moment or you get that one horror moment. I didn't want to fall into that trap as well. So I wanted to keep it balanced, and I hope we did that. We ran a little longer than I wanted. The goal was to be 190. 90 minutes. Sorry, not 190. God forbid. 90 minutes. We ran about at 137. But it moves fast. It moves very fast for its time. So hopefully people will feel the same.
Well, speaking of horror and the different trends and all that, do you have any favorite tropes in the horror genre? And then to that also like any tropes you're just like stay away, can't stand that anymore?
Yeah, yeah. My favorite tropes are the films that really disturb you. I'm not talking about again like the gore porn where it's just straight up, just blood fest. I'm talking
Mhm.
about the ones that have really kind of a disturbing element to them. I think of films like Let Me In, like The Right One In. I think of movies like Seven, that
Mhm.
leave you with an ending or a thought that you're like, I just can't shake this. It's almost haunting,
Yeah.
which is very difficult to achieve. Um, the one I don't like, the three I don't like the most is I don't like the over sexploitation that was big in the 90s. I mean the 80s, sorry, with the amount of nudity in a horror film and people having sex in the most ridiculous times because you're not going to like stop and have sex while you're being chased by a serial killer. The second thing was the overt reliance on gore. Well, although I appreciate the practical effects because I know how difficult it is to do those and how beautiful they can be, I think sometimes the filmmakers rely heavily on that so they don't have to put story in. It's like we just want to make people puke. Lastly, it's the stupid decisions that people make in horror films. And so with our film, I really wanted to think what would normal people do in this situation. And yes, they're going to make stupid decisions out of panic, but I wanted also them to make smart decisions, but the killer being one step ahead of them. So it's a little tougher to outthink the killer um, in that aspect. And Saw did that pretty creatively. But yeah, that's I hate when they're like, let's go into the cabin with all the chainsaws, not the
Yeah.
car that's running on that commercial.
Yeah.
So funny.
Right.
So
Do you have a because I know like slashers, there's obviously death and killing. Do you have a favorite, without getting too descriptive, I guess, kill that you could think of in like a movie, like anything that was that creative? Like to me, I think of like can't remember which Friday the 13th it was. There's one where like Jason grabs someone who's camping in their sleeping bag and
yeah,
just hits
that's
them
Rob
against
Cochran.
the
Yeah, the star
yeah,
of our movie, Rob Cochran, who plays the killer. He that's it. He does the camp killer. He's been doing it for years. Really well known local cosplayer does Jason, but that's his favorite scene. By the way, it's so funny you
yeah.
say that. For me, it's going to be a weird one. It's Let Me In. It's the pool scene. That is my favorite kill scene of any horror film because you see very little, but it's all done with sound and the filming and the camera work is just absolutely elegant. It's a great kill scene. So that's my favorite.
Nice.
And can you walk us through the process of what it takes to make this film, and how long has it how long has it been in development, and how long did it take to film, and edit, and all the things that I'm pretty sure goes into this that we don't even realize, because I mean we're just used to turning on the TV or going to the movie theaters to watch our films, and we don't typically think too much about the process of putting it together.
So it took us about a year from inception to uh to getting everything to the distributor. Um Filming took I believe we started filming in I want to say this right because we got done in July. So July, June, May, April, March, January. So about it was 6 months of filming. Now that was just on weekends. We filmed mostly at Lake Hickory Haunts, which is one of the best haunts that I've ever seen in my life. Um, but the hardest part was writing the script and rewriting the script because the script that we had when we began is not the script we ended up with. I mean, the script that we ended up was better. And I'm going to use elements from the script that we didn't use for other films. But I like the evolution because we moved away from one concept to another. But the most tedious part is the editing. So filming is fun because you get to see the actors act and all that. The setup doesn't bother me, but editing, I love editing, but it is tedious. And what's frustrating is like you think you got a shot, and you're like, oh shoot, I didn't get that shot. Then you got to figure out a way to fix it. And I don't do reshoots. That
Right.
may change as I get Lord willing larger, but right now I don't do reshoots. I just I want to get what I want to get. So I'm very almost too much with my setups and all that. And we do multiple takes from multiple angles. I'm not as bad as Kubrick, but I try to get as much film as I can, so I have a lot to work with. But uh, yeah, I would say full year. I know there's filmmakers that put out films in a month,
Wow.
sometimes in a couple weeks. That's not me. I am so anal about, and I'm not embarrassed to say that, about quality control and really putting it together and doing it right, that I would much rather put out one movie a year than three, one that I'm proud of a year, than three that I'm like, yeah, I got them out. So I got the IMDb credit and people are watching. But I want my legacy to be more in line with the directors that I love, John Carpenter, Steven Spielberg, Frank Capra. I want to make those. Now, we did have a good year this year, 2024, because we had Your It Get Done. We had Rescue come out, which is a short film, which is on YouTube. We had several Stroh's episodes come out. I did multiple con promos. So we had a lot of good stuff come out, but Your It was the crown jewel.
That's awesome. And I must feel pretty cool like after a year to like I know February 7th is the premiere, correct?
Yep. Yes, sir.
So what's that kind of like, knowing that day is coming up? I'm sure that day will be a lot of fun and a lot of excitement. So what does that feel like?
So I'm equally terrified and excited.
Yeah.
This is the worst part for me because I'm such a hands-on and I don't know how to relax. I am a true workaholic. And
Mm.
it's a very bad trait. And now I'm 53. I need to start slowing that down because I literally have to do, like, I play a sim game called Roller Coaster Tycoon just to get myself, you know, not worrying about other things. But uh, so I am very excited. It's a bit surreal, but I'm also terrified because now the film comes out and now we see if the audience appreciates what we put in. It also gets to that point where you don't have anything else. Well, I do have other things to do, but like the projects come to an end. So you're almost like you feel like a stranger in a strange land kind of thing, almost lost. So I'm working on my other projects now to start getting back because we had 2025. We're hoping to have at least four. Of I know I just said what I said. I'm being kind of hypocritical, but we have four projects that we want to work on, and then we think we can fit that in a year. I don't know if they'll all get released by in a year, but they'll be hopefully finished within a year. So it's kind of that, it's, will the audience see all the work and the effort put in? Will they like it? I'm okay with critics. I'm okay with trolls. I've been canceled so many times I don't exist anymore. But this one, I think this one is a little bit more sentimental for me because of the effort we put in. I mean, we had 65 people involved in the cast. We shot at almost 10 different locations. Uh, we really had an amazing time filming it. So I hope that it has the impact that uh, we've worked so hard to have, you know?
Well, and whenever because I've written some stuff and like when you send it to somebody, you're kind of like making yourself a little bit vulnerable.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
like
yeah.
once you press play, you start the movie, now you're just like, okay, like, like
No, you're naked. You're naked in the wilderness when you put it out there because there's nothing. You're putting out everything, your entire soul out
mhm.
for people to see. And a lot of people try to blow it off. One of the most powerful things that I've seen, I know this is going to sound really weird, but I was watching the documentary on Monster Squad, which is one of my favorite movies. And the director who did Monster Squad went on to do so many bigger things, but he's still bothered to this day that it took 20 years for that film to be develop a cult following because he put so much time. And if you watch the film, you see the love the director put in it. And so you're always afraid that you're going to put something out and think it's going to do well and it just bottom out. I don't think this film will do that, but I'm very careful on managing my expectations so I don't get, if it doesn't have the impact. But it's I think it's original. I feel like it's different from from just what I described to you folks. So we'll see if the audience feels the same way. But you never know. You never know. I mean, you just never know.
Yeah.
I'm sure Spielberg thought he had a box office hit with AI, and look at that film. That was at the time multi-million-dollar endeavor, and he loves that movie, and it just did not do anything. Yeah. So
Mm,
and you watch it, it's not a bad movie. It's shot beautifully, the story, but it just didn't it it didn't have the draw that Close Encounters or an ET or Indiana Jones, would have. So
yeah, yeah. I mean, I would definitely be nervous myself, and just thinking like how you're describing this is, yeah, that would be kind of surreal for me. Um, and what do you find most compelling about filmmaking as a medium?
storytelling. The reason people ask me why I love horror, and one is as a kid, I was severely bullied and I was terrified of everything. I mean, I couldn't watch a horror movie. And so I purposefully at some point started I can't remember what age I was at, but started purposely watching horror movies and bothering myself and staying up at night and having the nightmares to overcome the fear. And eventually I began to appreciate the films for what they are. And what they are is they truly are the last bastion of morality tales. They are the folklore of yesteryear, because remember, back in the day, they sat around campfires and told these stories about the Wendigo and Sasquatch and all that. The primitive folks told these stories around a campfire to keep kids from misbehaving. The Baba Yaga, all that. It was this Krampus. It was all designed as a morality tale, wrapped in these horror stories. And if you look at horror, that's what it is. It's sometimes a story about redemption, sometimes a story about hopelessness, sometimes a story about the consequence of your actions. That there are evils in the world that we don't see coming, and there are evils in the world that are look like you and I, that aren't monsters as far as appearance, but inside are the most horrific beings imaginable. So it is to me the last bit of folklore, and it's really cool to be part of telling those folk stories. Drama, comedy, they are their own thing, but horror really is folklore, because that's what horror, I feel, I could be questioned on this. Your viewers may comment and say no. I feel like horror was birthed from those campfire tales that were told to, spend time or teach someone not to go past a certain border point, or this is the cause of your actions to be a good person. If you don't be a good person, these things happen. It really is the last bastion of that. Even films like Terrifier, right? Maybe small amount, but there's something in there of that folklore.
Right.
Yeah,
No, that's really cool. I
yeah,
haven't
good
thought
stuff.
of it that way.
Yeah,
Well,
so
we got to meet you through cons. That's where we first like kind of encountered. I know you've like, dressed as Batman and all that as well, what's your favorite thing about like setting up at cons? Because I know like, Tim and I, we have a great time. What do you like most about it?
Interacting with the fans. When I have a fan come up and they're really excited about the project and they ask me questions and there's real engagement and real interest, that to me is, because I mean, I'm a nobody, and you're interested in my stuff. That's huge. It's also humbling, because I always remember I am a nobody. There's 20 million people making films, some of them with their phones right now, and they look amazing. So there's a lot of competition. So when someone beads on you, I have people to this day still mention Dusk. I don't talk about Dusk anymore, but there are people who still go, man, I love Dusk. And I thought that was amazing. There are people come up to me who were really impressed with The Devil's Daughter. So that kind of stuff really, when a film sticks to you. I had a young lady tell me how, because it's one of the things, the reason we were made The Devil's Daughter was to tell the story about abuse and the effects of abuse through the character of Harley. And I had a girl tell me that it really, for her, it really hit home, because that's what she went through, and that we really
mhm.
portrayed it in a realistic, non-exploitive way, and she appreciated that. That's huge. That's a
Yeah,
person giving you a life experience and saying your movie connected with my life experience. I don't care how much money you
yeah.
make on a film; those moments are what have the most value. You know,
That's really awesome. I mean, that's right there to know that you made that difference on somebody's life with your movie. That's yeah,
yeah. You can't. I mean, you can't. There's no way to truly define it. But it's, to me, for me, Taylor, and Tim, for me, Tyler, I'm sorry, golly, boomer brain, Tyler and Tim, for me, um, I don't want to be famous. I don't care about being rich. I mean, obviously, I want to make enough money to pay my bills. What I want to do are two things. I want to make a movie that affect people in a positive way, and they remember throughout history because that's your immortality. The second most important thing is I want to be the guy who opens the door for somebody else, for one of my actors or crew members to go, "Hey, I just made this film, and because I worked with you, that happened." Not so I can as bragging rights, but so I know I actually had an impact on someone's life. I
Right.
actually did something amazing. I was in ministry for a long time. I will tell you, no sacrilege meant. I have had more of an impact in this industry with helping people get things situated than ever I did in ministry because it's all action. A lot of times in ministry is a bunch of people talking from a pulpit. In this, you're if you want to be a servant leader, this is how you do it. And I have people on my sets. Hey, Ron, I want to work camera. Hey, I'd like to learn sound. Yeah, let's do it. I want you to get experience. I want to learn lighting. I want to learn how to do different aspects of the filming. Um, my actors take ownership in their roles. They come to me, hey, can my character do this? This line doesn't necessarily work. Can I try this? I love that kind of interaction because that's where you get the most out of your actors, out of your crew, when they feel like they're truly part of something. They're not just a spoke or a cog. They feel like they're actually an active, living part, a blood cell of what's traveling through the vein, you know?
Yeah,
Mm. Yeah.
that's awesome.
It look, yeah, that's really great. Look, so looking ahead, um, are you looking at any projects in the future?
Yes. So I've got, like I said, we've got four. And again, I know I'm being a little bit hypocritical. Like if I make one picture, but as I told you, we had about three projects come out in 2024. We're working on four. And again, it all depends on funding and all that to come through. But we have two short films. One's called Checkmate, which is about a man whose wife dies, and he plays death to bring her back. And it explores the backstories of both not only the character but also death. And then we have a film called Simp, which is about two serial killers kind of dueling it out.
Mm.
The big one I want to do is Dear Sarah, and that's a post-apocalyptic tale. We've got the location, I've got the actors. I just got to get the funding because there's a lot of stunts, very little dialogue. It's I love it came to me. It's one of those things that hits you and you start writing stuff down. And I did that, and I'm like, this is something that I got to put out there. I love the story. It's about love and love in its most raw, brutal, pure form. What would you do? What limit would you have for the person you love? And then there's the Beast of Man, which is kind of a retribution tale, which is also another one I want to really do. But again, those two require budget. So I'm hoping through your it, when people see what we can accomplish with $20,000, they might go, "Hey, Ron, here's 50, here's 60. Go make these movies, and then I can really continue doing these." But when I submitted this film to the distributor, he was shocked at how much we spent. He said, "There's no way I've seen a $20,000 film that's had 65 cast members, multiple locations, this quality." So I'm really hoping that's reflective in the audience as well.
Mm.
Yeah, that's super exciting. And I know we got, like we said earlier, the premiere is going to be February 7th
Yes.
again. So
Yeah.
that's awesome.
It'll premiere in the films, and then our goal is it will end up on Vudu, which is now Fandango, and Amazon Prime as a purchase or rental. That'll run for a couple months, and then it will end up on like the Tubies, the Roku's, the Shutters, and the Screen Boxes, where it'll be streaming because that's the most obviously sensible way to do it. So the only time you can see in the theater right now is February 7th. We have tickets on Eventbrite on Your It. All you have to do is look up Your It, and they're there. You can tell it's us. Um, and those tickets, you get a chance to be part of the history of the film because that's the one, maybe the only one in time that's in theaters. We looked at putting in theaters, Tyler, but theaters, theaters are in a bad shape. They're not taking risks. So they're not
Yeah.
going to take a no name like me and say, "Oh yeah, we'll put your 2 hour film in our theater," when they could seat something else, which has got. That's why everyone's doing reboots right now. If you notice, 2025 is nothing but sequels and reboots. It's frightening. So
They're playing it safe. So,
100%.
but no, that's awesome, and we're gonna make sure we include the link to the trailer and
Thank you. I
the
appreciate that.
Eventbrite.
Yep.
But this has been cool. We're super excited for you,
Thank you.
and wish you nothing but the best with the release. I'm sure it'll be great. It sounds great. I watched the trailer. It looks really cool.
Thank you, sir.
Looks really
Same.
compelling.
Thank you, Tim.
And
Yeah.
the I love the concept of like you said, not just having faceless people that die, actually, character arcs and makes it hit a little bit more close to home. So
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be awesome.
And we still have some really cool kills, by the way. We did mix practical with CGI, and the mix was really solid. So I'm really happy with the kills. So
Nice. Maybe my sleeping bag
What?
kill will be usurped.
yeah, I don't know about that, but that's a pretty iconic kill. So that's a pretty tall order. But no, there's some really. I have one of my personal favorites, and it just came out so amazing, and it's just wonderful. So
That's
I
awesome.
know that I'm definitely looking forward to seeing it. This looks really, really good. Like after I had seen the preview, I was like, huh. I was like, who? Like at the time, I wasn't 100% sure if it was your film, but then you know when Tyler started talking to me about doing an interview, I'm like, oh, that's Ronald's. Okay, okay.
by the way, both you, Tim, and Tyler are invited to come to the premiere if you'd like. I'll send you the details. I'd love to have you guys come to the premiere, see the film, possibly review it, get your take because you're my target audience. So I'd love to hear your feelings about it, honest feelings about it once it comes out. So if you're interested, I'll send you the information. I'd love to have you guys attend the premiere with the cast.
You hear that, Tyler? We're the target. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I
I
feel a little bougie. We
no,
made
we
it.
that, yeah, that sounds really good. That sounds like a good time, and it pretty much sounds like a plan to me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. And again, Ron, we appreciate you coming on to talk to us again. And we're excited for you and also excited for the crew because I know with any project like this, it's not a one-man show. So we're
No,
also really proud for you and also the crew is, of course.
thank you very much. Yeah, just real quick, one of the girls who's in it, Hope Jordan. This is her very first role, and she
Oh,
got
that's
a
awesome.
a starring role in it, and she did amazing for her first role. Absolutely, totally impressed with her. So
Nice. Well,
mhm.
we're really excited for you. And thanks again for coming on.
thank you for having me.
And we will definitely talk to you soon.
Look for number three. I
Yes, exactly. Three more, and then you get the
get
jacket.
the jacket. I'm looking forward to
Yes.
that.
All righty, Ron. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.
Yay!